Yeah, I was real cool on that. Yeah, we did it all. We did it all. Yeah, we got to understand. Black folks, see, we got to understand that we have done it damn all. And see, we got to start understanding our history. It's very important that we understand who we are. We understand our history. Because I've been going back and forth with a little angry white supremacist on Twitter. I've been giving him that work as far as history. Um, you got to understand, black folks, if you let these people try to tell you who you are, they're going to lie about it. They've always made it seem like foundational black Americans, like we're guests in our own country, and we're not. We're not guests in our own country. We're not comparable to immigrants. We are the only non-immigrant group in this country. We're not immigrants. We're the only group who are not immigrants. We are the foundation. We got to remember that. And we have to correct people's language. We were not brought to America. There was no America until we built it. Let's be very clear on the language. Nobody did us any favors. I want black folks to really understand this. So when you're giving these white supremacists this work, you can break down their lies. See, they try to give the impression that they had all this shit popping and they just happened to bring us over here to assist in getting it popping and we came up off of it. No. First of all, black people were already here. Many of the Aboriginal people were reclassified as Negro. Why were they reclassified as Negro? Because they look just like the African. They give you the impression that everybody was over here looking like the fake prototype of a Native American, which is Iron Eyes Cody. It's a Native American phony from back in the day named Iron Eyes Cody, who became the prototype for the Native American. And Iron Eyes Cody wasn't even no damn Native American. This dude was Sicilian. Native Americans used to be damn near jet black. If you look at images of Native Americans before the 1900s, most of them were damn near black. This is why they would call them tree niggers. They would call them niggers and Negroes too. If you look at history and if you read books, when Christopher Columbus, his son, he said that these look like the same people who were over in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is what they called Africa. Some of the other Spanish explorers, Balboa, these people said these are the same people that we saw in Africa. This is them saying this. So many different explorers kept saying these people look just like the people we saw in Africa. There is a reason why Christopher Columbus came here, saw the people, and called them Indians. Why did he call them Indians? Because they were black like the people in India, but they had straight hair like the people in India. If you go to India, people are jet black with straight hair. He saw the same thing here. Oh, these Indians weren't red people. See, that red thing came a little bit later. You did? So we got to understand. Ooh, what happened, Lexi? What takes the second? Oh, the mayo. Okay. So we got to understand history. Yeah, like when Roland Martin was going back and forth with Richard Spencer, and Richard Spencer said something to the effect, well, you know, the white people, we should have came and picked our own cotton. That's kind of a thing that the white supremacists like to say. Oh, we shouldn't have brought these black folks over. We should have picked our own cotton. And you have to remind these white supremacists. And I was going in on this white supremacist on Twitter. He was talking about how good, because he's English. He said he's from England and how great their civilization was. I said, dude, England was a shithole until the wealth of foundational black Americans built that place up. England was a big fucking muddy cesspool before the wealth of foundational black Americans funded that whole country. Do y'all understand? I want y'all to be very clear on this. Europe was not popping at all. I really want black folks to understand this, but we can just pick the year. Let's talk about the 1600s, the early 1600s. Nowhere the white supremacist war was popping. The only reason, let's go back. Let's go back. The only reason Spain got things popping is because they finally pushed out the black Moors. The black Moors were out there bullshitting. They ruled for 700 years. So damn, they niggas get tired after 700 years. The Moors was over there running shit in Spain for 700 years. So after 700 years, yeah, niggas get tired. You know, so they finally, after 700 years, got the Moors out. And when they got them out, you got access to all their resources left over. You got the spoils of war. You understand? And when you get the spoils of war, you know, you get a head start over everybody else in Europe. The Age of Enlightenment, the Enlightenment was the Moors' information, dude. That's the Enlightenment era. Let's go back. We're going to go back. Let's go back some more. We're going back. Let's go back into the Age of Enlightenment. Remember, in Europe, damn everybody was illiterate during the Dark Ages. They had a Dark Age where between the 3rd century and the arrival of the Moors, half the Europeans damn near died out. They had so many plagues. The most devastating one was the Justinian plague, where shit, like 50 million people out there died. It was like 5,000 people dying a day. They were dying their asses off. They didn't know how to clean themselves. They didn't know how to eat right. They didn't have any resources out there. They weren't controlling any trade routes. So they were dying off. It was not popping in Europe. This is why whenever they do movies about certain periods in Europe, they never really talk about the Middle Ages unless they talk about it in the realm of fantasy. So anytime they talk about historic Europe, they always have to make it like a Game of Thrones, where it's a fantasy shit. There has to be dragons and warlocks and all the bullshit in there. They can't talk about the real deal because wasn't shit popping there. So when the Moors came up there, the Moors being black men coming from Africa, as a matter of fact, the military branch of the Moors came in from North Senegal. I mean, it was real black motherfuckers. So when they came through, you know, they took over Spain. They brought in, you know, they cultivated certain fruits, vegetables. They brought in books. They started building all those castles in Spain, in many parts of Europe. Those were Moorish castles. That's why they call them Moorish castles. They moved in them later. They started to bring in medicines and alcohol and things and astringents and all these things, medical supplies to clean up all the damn diseases. That was the first order of business, cleaning up all the damn diseases. And they had to start preventing people from doing all the nasty shit that white supremacists do today. Family, the white supremacists, they've always been nasty. Some of y'all black people, you don't really live around them. Some of y'all ain't never really been around them. I went to school with some of these folks. So I know firsthand how nasty they are. Just instinctively nasty. No matter how much money they got, they're nasty as fuck. So you can just imagine how they were getting down up there in Europe. They still are now. I had years ago, I had a Jamaican house cleaner come and clean one of the cribs I was in. I forgot where I was living at the time. It was a Jamaican sister. I talked about this before. And, you know, them Jamaican women are rude as fuck. And she actually was yelling at me. I hired her. She's yelling at my ass. Your house is filthy. I'm like, well, shit, that's what I hired you for. You should never let your house get this filthy. All right, well, damn, bumbleclot. Shit. You know I told you about that Jamaican chick who cleaned the house? I don't know when it was. I don't know if you were around. But I think I told you she got like low-key mad. She was like, this house is filthy. You filthy like white people. White people are filthy like this. I'm like, okay. You keep your house like a white person. It's filthy like white people. I'm like, damn. Okay. Yeah. That was, I must have been. Yeah. One of my bachelor pads. So I guess she said, I'm filthy like white people. So she's Jamaican. They don't give a fuck. That's why I'm like, I never hired her again. I'm like, you're a rude lady. I never hired her ass again. Yeah. Man. So the Jamaicans ain't got no filler. Well, they go off. It's a tradition. It's a tradition for them to clean. Yeah. So like I said, they were filthy up there. It was not popping. It wasn't popping up there at all. So black folks had to go in there and clean all that shit up, teach them how to eat 4-course meals. That don't, you look at those movies, you see in the Middle Ages what they do. The table just has a big pile of food and everybody just digging, eating meat, and just that's how they used to eat for real. They would just throw food on the table like some fucking Neanderthals and just start eating every goddamn thing. So it was one brother who actually went in, Ziriab. There was a black dude named Ziriab in the Middle Ages in the 8th century, I think, 7th or 8th century, who actually taught people how to, okay, you're going to eat an appetizer first. You're going to eat a salad because you need to balance out your system then you're going to drink a soup, and then you're going to eat the main meal, and then afterwards you'll eat something sweet. So it was a black dude named Ziriab who actually taught them how to do course meals. Yeah, for the most part we do. Yeah. It's just a pile of meat on the table. Yeah. Ziriab, the black bird. They called him the black bird because at first he was black than a motherfucker. And they called him the bird because the guy could sing real good. He was actually like a celebrity out there in Spain, in Moorish Spain. Yeah. So you got to understand the environment out there. And brother Layla Africa would talk about how the soil doesn't have enough nutrients in it. That means the food won't have a certain level of nutrients. There's really nothing out there popping. That's why they had to get up out of Europe. But again, it was the Moors up there in Spain. Spain, the climate is a pretty decent climate there. It's not like up there in England where it's just muddy and sloppy and rainy all the time. Spain has a pretty good environment that's good to cultivate figs, olives, grapes, things like that. So the Moors utilize that. So I'm just giving you some history on how brothers went in there and just got shit right. And again, it took them 700 years to push them out of there. And then once they did that, the Spanish, they were the first ones to really get access to some real resources because they took the spoils of war from the Moors. That's what really funded the slave trade. That's the thing that funded the slave trade. Spain is beautiful. It's a beautiful country.